Okay. To stay motivated in work depends on the planet in your 6th house. Now, not everyone has a planet in their 6th house, so they'll probably want to look at a house lord. But I think especially a planet in the 6th house, to get work done, you have to keep the planet happy, or planets, multiple planets happy. Sun, you have to feed your ego to feed your work, your daily minor opus minor. Moon means you have to be comfortable. You need to be in comfort. Also, work could be more like intuitive, or you need to do intuitive work. In all of these cases, you need to feed the planet. But as far as, just something that's not really particular, because what you can do is like someone could wear a silver necklace, and then their career would move ahead without them doing anything. But I think most people are going to be, the most helpful thing to say is, okay, look for this pattern. And trying to remedy things with like a necklace, or, wearing a certain color, whatever, it can bring flash in the pan results. Sometimes too, wearing a coat, like wearing orange to remedy sun, then that will make you like aware. Okay, it'll empower the planet, but it'll make you aware of, like, if you're trying to be aware that the planets are teachers, wearing the color will capacitate that planet, capacitate its energies, and then a lot of times through that things will manifest, and you can look at the manifestations and figure out a little more easily where some avenues can come in. And sometimes just the will of the planet can manifest in your life, and then you can pick up on opportunities. And no matter how trapped you are, or how many obstacles there are, things can move. Anyways, so that's kind of the underlying philosophy that I'm talking here. But just as a simple, at a glance type thing, if it's Mercury, you have to communicate. Mercury also, you need to not be very rigid-minded. You need to be very accepting of different viewpoints. Mercury also doesn't like to be crowded out. Mercury wants to have his space to think. So in the 6th house, if you're at your work or something, you are Mercury when you're at work. This is another way it can show up. Like when you're at work, you are in your 6th house. What's in your 6th house? You're representing that planet. When you're doing the activity of the house, the energy of the planet will come through your person. You will sort of channel the energy of the planet, which is why ceremonial magic is great, because then you can control it to the point where, like, you get some distance. Like, okay, okay, sun, you can be here, but I'm over here. You're over there, okay? Even though sun is considered to be most intrinsic to one's inner identity, I have maybe some criticism of that. Or I don't have criticism, I have question. I don't have a criticism yet, but I have a question of, like, is that really true? Some people are very lunar, I've noticed. That's a big trend I've seen with people that I've looked at their charts, is that their persona is more captured in the moon than the sun. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Venus. Venus is another one. Person will want to be more comfortable. Person might be involved more in planning than execution, because Venus is a guru. Okay. Venus, knowledge, coding. Coding is another one, because Venus presides over the seed, but it can be the seed as in it's the information. So Venus is a little more complicated. It could also be like you need a significant other. If you're a man, needs like a girlfriend or a wife or something, and or perhaps if a woman is like a lesbian, or if if a woman in a relationship with a man is like or more masculine, and the man is more like feminine or something, the man could also represent Venus in that case. For a woman, Venus is going to represent the art aspect of it. So Venus is a little more loaded onto relationships than, like, I wouldn't say the same so much about Mars, or I've also have understood that Mercury can be interchanged for Mars, as well as actually Jupiter, Mars, and Mercury in different cases can all be the husband, but Venus is typically the wife in the relationships. So, and then Sun and Moon, I think. I almost kind of see them as being in a way almost like married, but in a sense also not, and they don't really come with that sort of they don't come with that symbolism as far as I've seen or read or heard. I mean, I've felt that masculine feminine dichotomy with Sun and Moon, but I haven't really seen anything like relationships wise, and I think it's because it's a more basic, it's a more fundamental underlying masculine feminine principle that's beyond what someone physically is, and everyone has an id and an ego, so everyone has a masculine and feminine side. Not to say masculine side and feminine side are the same as id and ego, but there's like many different solar and lunar dichotomies, some of which may be less fortunate than others, less accurate than others, I should say. But I think Moon and Sun are just complicated enough, and there's just enough vested in them of people's life force and everything, that it's just more complex. Maybe even to say masculine and feminine with them is not exactly entirely correct. Maybe it's more of a almost like a more subtle masculinity and femininity that's not exactly masculinity and femininity, but it's more like it's simply solar and lunar. One is maybe giving and one is receiving, but it's not actually completely perfect to understand it as masculine and feminine, something like that. Anyways, moving on. Mars. Perhaps someone with Mars will want to fight with others. Mars can have different sort of manifestations of where it's at. Like, if someone has Angarak Yog, so it's Rahu or North Node paired with Mars, especially in sidereal. Well, actually, it would be in both, because the actual proximity of the planets doesn't change between the two. Now, Mars wants to fight or build. That's a lot of it. That Martian drive needs to be harnessed somehow, and fighting or building something, and the building something can lead to fighting over something, and probably will. Mars, in my opinion, Mars is the most malefic planet. Now, I think it's what drives us to some extent, but maybe it's not necessarily 100% good. There's different opinions on this, but I would say it's the most malefic because Rahu can cause someone to be like delusional or something, especially if it's in the wrong sign. But Mars, it's like I don't know. This is a very yogic opinion. It's just this very sacral like urge to action. But I have some work to do through that anyways, so I don't want to be like, oh, Mars is terrible, But in general, I'm less vested in Mars, and I think a lot of people go through issues through Mars. But I think the issues are also turning into the good manifestations, the successes. So the problems and the triumphs are interrelated. So I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get to the triumphs without the trials, you know, or having a less, you know, just getting out of sort of the wheel of karma, and acting and producing what I would like, you know, things I'd like to produce outside of, you know, following my dreams, following my do or dharma or whatever, without that, or even completing the opus minor, the small things before, you know, because you have to do a bunch of stuff before you go on and become a whole person, and then do like what you're supposed to do in life. And at least I've found that that's the case, and it lines up with what I've learned from, you know, Kabbalah and the. I'm not a big expert on Kabbalah or something, but what I've learned from ceremonial magic, like that, yeah, you do the opus minor, and then once all of that's finished, then you're able to work on the magnum opus, your great work. So I think Mars can be related to that. I think I have been somewhat successful in bypassing just some of the angst of existence in that way. I mean, I had angst. Mars will also sort of you'll get clawed back by Mars if you don't chase the sacral. You know, like it's kind of like the thing of the images on the cave wall, Plato's shadows on the cave wall, is that when you aren't obsessed and in mania over the illusory existence, yeah, people don't like that, and they're like, why aren't you doing X or Y or Z, or, you know, any number of useless endeavors that ultimately don't add value. It's not so much I'm trying to avoid trials or trials or angst or strife. Okay. It's not that I'm trying to avoid trials or problems or, you know, just difficulties so much. It's almost not that. It's more I was concerned about this concept I had in my head of muda, operational waste, or that which is worthless. Just getting rid of the actions that don't bring a particular value. And what I figured out is that there's sort of an inner journey you have to go on. So basically what I did is I stripped away the outer vestments of the inner journey and just did the inner journey. But then when I came very far in the inner journey, I ended up manifesting the inner journey through action. Like, you know, I've wanted to do animation for a long time, but up until then I've been doing, you know, videos about various occult topics, and I did a debate with a friend I made in some Facebook group. We're pretty good friends at this point, actually, but we did this debate, and I messed up, and when I did the screen capture, when I did the recording, I didn't get any of my talking parts. So I had to go. I said, you know what? Okay, I fucked this up, so I'm gonna fix it. And so I redid all of my parts as if I was talking to him. I was a little bit too ambitious at first to try and make it look seamless, but then I just looked at the points and did a more simple version. It still came out really well. And then I cobbled it all back together, and it was a huge effort. It took me probably about a week of work. A week of work at, you know, the pace I typically do work, you know, pretty much like 4-hour days or something, you know. Like, probably took me 20-30 hours to do the whole thing. So, you know, once I finally cobbled this thing together and rendered the whole thing, I hit render, you know, in DaVinci Resolve, and I felt this enormous, like, pulsating of power in my like in my midsection, in the left side, and it was really powerful and amazing, and I'd never felt anything like it, and I feel permanently, better. And a few nights before this, I had managed to sort of yogically focus on a few, like 3 vertebrae of my spine, and sort of relax them. And this is just how manifestation goes. A lot of times, like you'll do something, or something will sort of manifest even through your actions, but the cause of it was actually like in the future a bit. So, anyways, to sort of get to the point, by doing the work and completing this thing, I got past some big sort of even cosmic obstacle that I had, and it turned out that it seems like, because I have some asthma too, it seems like I was so like stiff and everything else, perhaps from some childhood trauma or something, that a lot of my organs weren't functioning correctly. Like I feel so different now, and but I realized, because this has happened many times, where when I start to do the work that I want to do, the big work, a lot of things would go really, really wrong, and over time they went less wrong, because basically I'm changing something within myself as I'm doing the work. And so this is a big picture of that. So that's a pretty big tangent, but basically my point is that a lot of times to understand with Mars that a lot of the strife and angst in the outside world is related to some kind of process of becoming in the inside world, and the more you can sort of soften yourself to that process, the more you can kind of cut out some of the unnecessary suffering. So, and some of that's just saying no to angst, or also another thing, and this is still, I think this is still very pertinent to the topic of Mars, because Mars, why do people fight? Sometimes it's over the dumbest shit. Like, you ever see 2 people fight and they're fighting over something that you're like, you can't understand why they're fighting about it, but they're ready to just square up and throw hands, and you're like, what happened? Some people just like to fight, and so Mars is very connected to the material condition of suffering and striving for things that maybe don't matter that much, or having that connection. There's some attachment to it to some extent. All of these things with Mars. Even when I've done some planetary workings with Mars, it just has, to me, a very sticky energy. So I've only done it a few times because I didn't like it. And I think, like I said, it's kind of antagonistic to my more yogic sort of method, like mindset about these things. My more yogic perspective, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of times it's just good to step back and say, what am I really fighting for? What am I really fighting over? What's the real goal here? What am I actually trying to do here? Because that's a lot of it. Is the meaningless angst won't stand up to like basic logic. And one big area of this that's good to think about is finances, which actually Mercury also is related to finances. So that could also have something to do with the 6th house there, especially. But with Mars, yeah. One thing with finances is like if you have spending problems or whatever, like a lot of times people who spend money, like they spend their money poorly, or some people make a lot of money but they just spend it all. A lot of people have a mentality, like I had one uncle who had trouble controlling his weight, or has trouble controlling his weight, and he said, I buy the single packets of chips so I don't eat as much, but of course they're more expensive, so then I buy the big bag of chips, but then I eat it all in one go. Oh, and then he was acting like this is such an impossible dilemma, and it's like, well, if you would just buy the packs of chips and eat one, or take two with you, whatever, then, well, first of all, you could get the variety pack and have 2 different flavors, and that would make you feel better. Variety is the spice of life. And the thing is, if you eat the whole bag of chips in one go, you've actually eaten more money than the little bag. You know what I mean? So it's not an impossible dilemma at all. Just buy the small. I remember he was telling me this, and I was just, it really pissed me off. Like, you expect me to have empathy towards you for this? What are you talking about? I suppose that's mean, but it's not. And of course, then also the problem with controlling weight is also the problem with controlling one's material desires. And yeah, Mars is very connected to that. Mars is connected to the sex drive. Also, I feel like mentioning now that Mars is Nergal, considered an aspect of Shamash, the sun god, in Babylonian myth and astrology. So that's worth understanding, and I think perhaps you could understand. Well, Mars is enmeshed with the ego a lot, so there's that. Okay, moving on. See what comes after Mars. Jupiter. Let's go with Jupiter. It might be that someone needs education, or someone will want to educate themselves constantly to motivate themselves in work. They may be a teacher, or might find that through teaching, maybe they could do a thing and then teach others what they're doing. So, something like that. Jupiter's pretty cut and dry, I think. Saturn, someone should wear a uniform. So they should have a few outfits for work that are only for work. And that can make Saturn happy. That's an easy fix. Why go more into Saturn? Most people are not gonna be able to, they're not gonna want to make nice with Saturn. And dress nice for work. Dress nice for work if you have Saturn in the 6th house. Okay. I think that's it. I don't think I'm going to touch on the generational planets for this. No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Alright.